It seems like forever ago that we got the news that Gareth Edwards, the director of Monsters, was going to be given a Godzilla reboot. And now it's here.
And he's got a new Monsters coming out soon, too. Actually.
And this is going to be the first of 6 movies we do again.
Because apparently we can't do a video right now without 6 movies.
Yes. So at least we're getting lucky in seeing them.
Indeed.
This movie's got a big cast that I'll just go through as I go through the plot, which isn't. It's basically the plot of all other 15 Godzilla movies there's been, but basically we start with Ken Watanabe and Sally Hawkins. Some of these people I didn't know were in it until I was watching it.
Same here.
Like Ken Watanabe.
Yeah.
Oscar Calabrakis too. Like I think almost all of them, with the exception of Johnson and Cranston and Olsen, have either a nomination or a win. So we see Ken Watanabe and Sally Hawkins investigating, and it looks a lot like the beginning of Prometheus.
Yeah, it does.
Which may put some people off. I like Prometheus, so
Mm-hmm.
that's not an insult or anything, but...
Put up quite a battle against Alien during the verses we did.
So they basically do the whole, we found this underground stuff, and eventually monsters occur. To put it as simply as possible.
The end.
And then we go to Japan and we meet a married couple with a kid, and it's Bryan Cranston and Juliette Binoche. Fans of hers, I'm sorry that Juliette Binoche, who is the only Oscar winner in this cast, has about 30 seconds of screen time. Because there's an accident and they're all traumatized, and we cut to 15 years later and their kid has grown up into Aaron Johnson. And Aaron Johnson is married to Elizabeth Olsen, and now they have a kid. And really the only person we haven't talked about in the cast yet is Deus Strathairn, who is this, he's with the Navy, he's an admiral. And he's basically our go-to, let's nuke everything military guy. Because you always got to have that guy in these movies. I think back to William Hurt in The Incredible Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what it's... I didn't know going in exactly if it was going to be more like the... Because there were two kinds of there were many kinds of Godzilla back in the day, but the two main ones were... He's either the villain of the story and he's terrorizing the city, or there are other monsters, and Godzilla's basically... They basically use Godzilla to help them, to take down the other monsters. While he too is still a threat. This falls in the latter category. He doesn't have a son that's basically a green talking Barney yet, but give Joel Schumacher the Godzilla franchise, maybe he'll do it. But anyway, because it is Warner Brothers and we know how they interfered with that. And this is awfully, obviously the big thing, even though we had Godzilla 2000 and Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah and all them. It's mainly been known as a follow-up to Emmerich's movie. Not a follow-up, but like, it's the first wide American release Godzilla movie since Emmerich's movie, which obviously has the reputation it does. Do you believe Emmerich's movie's 16 years old already?
Wow.
I remember all the Taco Bell product placement and actually seeing it. I saw it in the theater and the drive-in. I didn't really think much of it back then. It was just the awesome blockbuster happening thing at the time.
The soundtrack is impeccable. To this day, I still listen to the Godzilla soundtrack.
Oh, so and what's great about this movie is it does go back to the old-fashioned sense of the better older ones, because there's a lot of the older ones aren't good at all, but the ones that really like defined the monster genre and inspired movies like Pacific Rim and stuff like that. This is a lot more like that. It has a really classical feel to it while at the same time being the monstrous big effects movie. But it actually has, on top of all of that, I don't know how people are going to take to this. The critics are loving it, which is interesting. It's down in the 70s now, but it had like a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes for a while there. It is certified fresh though. I don't know why this would be a surprise, but I wouldn't be surprised if people were angry a little bit. Like not necessarily people that would like go in loving this, but I mean like just normal people there for a big budget effects movie because it takes a while.
Yeah.
But that's the way pretty much all of them were. So if you're familiar with the formula of these movies, then you should be okay. But I sense some restlessness in our theater.
Yeah.
Not like a lot, but you know. But there's also people bring their kids to this too, which.
Okay.
Well.
It's their prerogative, I guess.
Yeah. Once the action started, the kids seemed fine and everything, but I actually looked at the time. It's about an hour in when Godzilla finally surfaces, which is, I imagine, is the average for this movie's length. The older ones are like an hour and a half each, and he would show up maybe half an hour in. But they keep, because here's the thing about when Edwards made Monsters, the big thing that everybody loved about Monsters is you don't see the monsters.
Yes.
So he seemed kind of like the perfect choice for this. But there are some times where I promise, there is a big payoff. I promise. But the dude in front of us especially, I was seeing get really aggravated because Gareth Edwards really loves to do this thing where he teases you and then doesn't pay it off right away.
Yep.
I'm referring specifically to a scene where it's been build up and build up and build up, and we finally see Godzilla. He's there, but we don't see him like fight anything or anything, and we know these two. It looks like the Cloverfield monster.
Yep.
Except one has wings. When he first sprouted his wings, I thought they were going the Rodan route, but he's more of a pterodactyl. This is like a kind of like a mantis type thing. Mm-hmm. So it's basically building up that Godzilla is gonna fight these things, and we keep building and building. And there's this one particular shot where all the citizens are running this way behind these big doors so they can like flee the scene before this happens. And the big fight is about to happen, and the thing comes towards Godzilla, and Godzilla attacks it, and they embrace and they attack each other, and then the doors close, and we don't see any of it. I think that scene's gonna piss a lot of people off. But that's just the approach that they took. I would think it was a little excessive if there wasn't a big payoff, but there is a big payoff, so it's got that going for it, which is nice. It also has, like, actual acting in it.
Definitely.
Like, I mean, some of the older ones did go into, you know, story before action, but it was never really that interesting. Those were mostly just kind of letting the boring stuff happen and waiting for the big battle scenes. But this one actually manages to like have a firm grasp on it the whole time, even when you're doing all the setup and the scientific build-up and the humanity build-up and all that. It helps when you cast an actor like Bryan Cranston to be the crazy guy with the crap-up theories and all that.
The Ian Malcolm of the group?
Yeah. Who, he was an engineer, but then after the accident happened and the 15 years passed, he's now basically, oh shit, it's that guy. He's the crazy Ralph of the Godzilla universe.
Yeah.
To make a Friday the 13th reference. And he has that great scene when he's being interrogated that I think was in all the trailers. When he's talking about, something's coming that's going to take us back to the Stone Age. He gets to do his Bryan Cranston screaming thing. He's somebody I'd love to see on stage. I think he's still doing that LBJ play right now. Another great technical aspect that they brought back was it's not the same theme that you've always heard, but it is a very reminiscent score of those monster movies. Mm-hmm. It felt like a nice homage, I guess. And it just they managed to do like something they managed to do this human thing where the panic actually feels real. Like, it's not just a bunch of faceless people in Tokyo running around screaming Godzilla's name and running away. We actually get to see how that's the whole... They're so busy not showing us the fights that we're seeing how all the humans are taking to it. And there's actually a particular scene where it actually felt real, where obviously all this havoc is ensued. And we're seeing these creatures like tear apart the city on the news instead of up close. That's funny, seeing where Olsen doesn't even see it on the TV. She's just saying, turn the TV down. And there's a whole bunch of kids on school buses that they're trying to get out of the city. And all this carnage is happening, and all the kids care about are the tanks driving by. They don't care at all that they could be crushed to death any minute. Those tanks are fucking awesome, and that's all they care about.
Very, very true.
It's really well shot. There's a lot of really great, magnificent scenes. Like there's a prolonged scene on a train track that's really awesome. So much so that it actually started to mess with my vertigo when they got certain shots. When he's laying on the track trying not to be seen, and the monster just walks right by it. Speaking of my vertigo having a problem, another great thing that they did was, the problem, as classic as they are, I actually don't care that much for the 1954 original. Probably for this purpose, but most of them were like this. Even as time went on, it was really obvious how fake and hokey the effects were. Like, it was clearly some dude in a suit just stepping on, miniature cardboard cutouts and shit. Even with the newer ones that came out after Emmerich's movie, I think this is the first time we've really gotten... The effects feel so real that we finally have a sense of how massive Godzilla's supposed to be. Like the shot where we actually see him between the buildings, and it's pointed upwards. And he looks so realistic. So, obviously more than he ever has, ever. Thank God this movie had great effects, because this could have been a disaster if that happened. Because that we talked about a lot. Nowadays, big budget Hollywood special effects can go either way.
Yeah.
You can have the greatness that is this Godzilla, or you can have the cartoon characters that were in Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Even though for some reason that movie's special effects get a lot of a positive reaction, but I've never understood that. There are a couple of great scenes where they, when they skydive out of the plane and they have the red flares, and the scene where they have the electromagnetic. I don't know which of this was in the trailer and what wasn't, but where they have an electromagnetic pulse just go through everything. And you start to see all of the jets that were in the sky just come down, and it just starts to rain the planes. This is everything you could hope it could be as far as how massive the scale is. And yeah, there is another. Obviously, they did this for just because that's what you do for this, because that is Godzilla, that's the monster and what comes with him. People were really, really pissed off when Emmerich's movie came out and Godzilla didn't breathe fire. This movie makes up for that, which I guess is all I'll say. Like I said, I have no idea what's in the trailers and what isn't, but...
I don't recall that in the trailers. That's something I probably would remember.
So, the cast does what they can. There's nothing wrong with the cast, but as far as... This is a cast of really big names.
Yeah.
Like I said, most of them have Oscar nominee or winner next to their name. A lot of them don't have a lot to do. I don't remember Sally Hawkins having more than 3 lines.
No.
And Watanabe just kind of comes and goes as basically the scientist guy. And naturally he gets to be the one that says the name first. He does that big dramatic turnaround. Olsen doesn't do much. Her character conveniently happens to work at a hospital. So her job is to basically look panicked as people come in and she's wondering where her husband is. The problem I heard a lot of people had was the casting of Aaron Johnson. Because apparently Aaron Johnson doesn't have that many fans. You would think that judging by the reaction to this, even though he's in a lot of movies. But I think what the complaint was he's basically supposed to kind of have this old-fashioned action hero way about him.
Hmm.
And even though he's kick-ass very effectively, you don't get a sense of old-fashioned action hero when you look at Aaron Johnson right away. But I think even though it probably would have benefited more if they had cast maybe somebody else and somebody that fit that a little more, he's not bad. He doesn't do anything wrong or anything.
He gave me a Sam Worthington vibe.
So,
I like Aaron Johnson.
And he has the classic roar. Like when you watch the 1954 original, it's the very first sound you hear. I was wondering if it was just going to be like, I wasn't sure what the roar was going to be, but I was wondering if it was going to have that same sound as it does, where it's like the shriek and then it goes down into that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's been that roar in every single movie, all like 16 of them. And they didn't. It's a lot louder. That's the only difference.
It used to start Samoa Joe's entrance theme in Ring of Honor, actually. That exact roar.
So yeah, you've really gotta wait for it to happen, but when it happens, I think you'll be pleased. Which, like I said, is the way a lot of the other movies were. So if you're used to those movies, then this one falls right into that. It's the perfect homage movie. Because it's got all the elements, got all of the great elements of the original movies, and the parts that weren't so great about the original movies, they made better. So, yeah, this is probably as good as it could have been. I don't know if they're going to keep doing them, because we do still have the likes of Rodan and Mothra and King Ghidorah and all those other ones.
And we have...
I could have sworn... I only heard it once, and I figured I was just hearing things, so I just let it go, and forgot about it. But I could have, I don't know why, of all the monsters they could choose, it would be this one, which is why I was thinking maybe I was just hearing things and they said something else and my brain went elsewhere. I could have sworn once I heard Megalon's name. Do you remember anything like that?
I think it's possible.
Megalon is a giant beetle. And he was in what's considered one of the worst movies. The movie with Godzilla vs. Megalon has a robot superhero in it.
Oh my god.
And I thought it was guilty pleasure or fun, but most people hate Godzilla vs. Megalon. I could have sworn I heard somebody say his name once, but I could have just...
I think you might be correct. And it might just been one of those PSs for people that were paying attention.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I didn't see a giant fucking beetle.
No.
Okay, so it's a giant beetle that just happens to obviously have the arms of a human in a suit.
It probably helps that you just had a crash course on Godzilla the last week.
Yeah. Which is why I look like I haven't slept.
Yeah, he's been watching Godzilla pretty much nonstop.
So, because I hadn't seen any of the original movies before this week. So, I wanted to kind of catch up on that a little bit before this. And I'm glad I did, because I have a more of appreciation for the movie now than I think I would have. Of course, if you've seen Emmerich's movie, I think that gives you an advantage too. Because you can always come out saying, well, it was better than Emmerich's movie. So, yeah, that's pretty much what Godzilla is. So, yeah, I would tell you to check it out, but I think you're already going to do that, since it made almost $10 million just in Thursday night shows. So.
Yeah, it's looking at a $90 million opening this weekend at least.
I'd say that's more than people were expecting.
Yeah.
That's more than I was expecting.
Second week gross actually may take a chunk out of X-Men. Not a very big one, but a tiny one.
I don't know.
Because it's pretty, like, everybody wants to see it right now.
Yeah, well, you're anti-Singer people, too. That might take a chunk out of X-Men.
That's a good point.
So, yes. Our next movie is $1 Million Arm, which I feel like the trailer has existed forever.
It
That
has.
one trailer. It didn't have a second one. It was just that one. For how many months now?
I can completely verify that to be the truth because I've only put one trailer of Maybe Valorant on anything.
Okay, so you'll have to forgive me because much like when we did the draft day review, sports terminology is a bit lost on me. So I'm going to do my best. John Hamm is an agent.
Yes.
And he and his partner, who is Asif Mondi, are basically looking for talent they can represent.
Yeah, they're looking for talent to save their business because it's about ready to go down.
Because they were going to... He's all over the place with his sports here. I think the guy they're talking to at the beginning is a football player.
Yeah, he's a football player.
And he basically says, fuck you guys. So they're screwed.
But he does it nicely, though. He's actually a very nice gentleman, the way he deals with things. Like, it's just business.
So, John Hamm's basically saying, I'm gonna, something big's gonna happen. I'm just gonna try to figure this out. So he's sitting at home alone because he basically just hangs around his bachelor pad and screws models and goes to work. That's basically his thing. He lives next door to Lake Bell, but I'll talk about that in a second. So he's sitting on his couch and he's trying to figure out what they can do. And he keeps slipping by Cricket. And he and Asif Mondi had just had this conversation about how Cricket is basically... I think he said... Cricket is if inmates at an asylum got to make their own sport.
Yeah. It's like basketball.
And then obviously this takes place back whenever this took place, which is apparently the night that Susan Boyle was on America's Got Talent and did the big I Dreamed a Dream thing and blew everybody away. So the idea comes to him when he keeps slipping back and forth between Susan Boyle on America's Got Talent and a game of cricket.
Such a random way to get to that. But it worked.
That gave him some kind of epiphany. I'm not sure what it was, but he basically thought there's never been an Indian baseball player. And he could be big because it could give India a whole new thing to root for.
Mm-hmm.
A billion hats, a billion t-shirts. That whole thing. So basically it turns into, I don't know, did anybody see that basketball movie with Kevin Bacon called The Air Up There, where he went to Kenya?
Yeah.
This is basically what that movie is, only with baseball.
Yeah, that's pretty much the truth.
The same jokes and everything.
The tinge of the Scout thrown into, without the craziness.
So he, and speaking of the Scout, he recruits Alan Arkin, who is this bitter old Scout, because he's wearing the Scout hat that all Scouts wear. Albert Brooks wore it in the Scout, and I think John C. McGinley wore it in Summer Catch.
I'm pretty sure that's correct.
At some point. So they go to India, and they do this big tryout. The $1 million arm tryout, because whoever they find is basically going to get signed on for 7 figures.
Or so they hope.
Only problem is that cricket players can't throw very fast.
No.
But as the tryouts progress, eventually they find guys that can throw up to 80. 2 specifically.
Yes.
You have Suraj Sharma, who's the guy that played Pi in Life of Pi. And you have the guy who played Salim in Slumdog. I'm going to stop right here and mention that I think Hollywood may have a slightly narrow-minded perspective on the Indian culture, because there's a lot of Slumdog stuff in this movie.
Oh, absolutely.
You have an actor from Slumdog, you have the composer from Slumdog, and you have a couple of the songs that were in Slumdog.
References to cricket, which was also one of the questions in Slumdog.
So it's basically like the makers of this movie, uh-oh, that's Disney.
Hey, now.
It's basically like Disney said, well, what can we do to show off the Indian culture? Let's watch Slumdog again and just throw all that shit in there. Because that was successful. It did win the Oscar for Best Picture among like 7 more, so fine. But anyway, yeah, if all else fails, if you want to make a movie about Indian culture, just take the shit out of Slumdog and put it in there.
And make sure you hire A.R. Rahman, too.
Yes. Not the literal shit that he jumped into, though.
Yes.
Now there is a couple of subplots. One of them is the fact that his neighbor is Lake Bell. He's also her landlord, I think.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I try not to personally insult actors. Okay.
You completely didn't do that with Elizabeth Olsen in the last review.
We still got In Secret coming, so I'll get to go back into that.
Good point.
Lake Bell. The first time I saw her, I think, was when she played Alec Baldwin's new wife, and It's Complicated. And in that, she basically plays the same part here. What I mean by that is, Lake Bell often plays these objects of desire that all the men watch go by with their jaws hanging to the floor. I can't say I understand that, and I think I am. Maybe she was a little miscast. It also doesn't help that most recently she wrote and directed In a World.
Yeah.
Which is a screenplay I despise more than life itself. And basically her character in this movie talks like she's still writing the script for In a World. Like she's trying so hard to be hip and cool whenever she says anything.
It's the Diablo Cody syndrome.
Yes. So I didn't much care for this plot. So I didn't really much care for the character, and I don't want to be mean, but I just never really cared much for her as an actress. So, yeah. And then we have Bill Paxton, who is the coach?
Mr. Personality. USC coach, actually.
And basically, they're under pressure. They have him, they have the general from the Lady Killers.
Yeah.
Who was the opposing dad in Akilah and the Bee.
Yep.
I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, and I don't want to try, because I think that would be worse than me just saying, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say it. And they have all these people they have to impress, otherwise, this is never going to work.
Nope.
And it's basically an inspirational sports movie, just like all the other Disney ones. It's really... There's a lot to like about this movie, but at the same time, it's really, really generic. Because you have movies like Remember the Titans, and Miracle, and Invincible, and Cool Runnings. All those movies like that. I'm sure I'm missing a couple.
The Mighty Ducks.
Well, I'm talking about the true stories.
Ah.
Where you have the coach. John Hamm's character is basically this. A credit to John Hamm, by the way. A lot of people were wondering. This is his. Obviously, he had a big part in The Town and stuff like that. But this is his first starring role since Mad Men happened. So it's basically, let's see if he can carry a movie.
He's not Don Draper in this movie. Not even close.
Well,
in some ways, yes.
Because what John Hamm is able to do here is he manages to make the character likable and appealing, but at the same time, the character is really douchey and selfish.
Yep.
But just like all these other movies, the guy has got to be really douchey and selfish so he can have a character turn around to be Glory Road. That was what I was trying to think of. He has to be douchey and selfish so that he can have a turnaround when the kids change his ways about him and Lake Bell changes the ways about him, and he becomes more about the things that really matter and not just the job and
Let's have fun.
all that. Yeah, they do that embarrassing scene in The Mighty Ducks 2 when Emilio Estevez says, "You know what? Forget about the blood. Let's just have fun." And he pulls out a beach ball. A beach ball is a really safe place. Excuse me. An ice rink is a really safe place for a beach ball.
Yeah.
I wanted that scene to end with the beach ball just going right down onto the rink and one of them accidentally pops it with their skate. But now I'm on a Mighty Ducks 2 tangent when I should be talking about $1 Million. I'm sorry.
We'll talk about Mighty Ducks sooner rather than later, don't worry.
Something that this does here, which is kind of like the race thing in Glory Road, which is, it deals kind of with the cultural differences. Like the whole, like sometimes we may perceive them in a way that they're not. Like when John Hamm's character is under the impression that every person in India loves cricket. And it blows his mind when these two guys just happen to not.
Yep.
And then having pizza delivered to their room blows their minds. What's the pizza guy's line? Are you gonna take the pizza, or are you just gonna stare at me?
The elevator.
They really love the idea that you can stop an elevator's doors from closing immediately. So much so that it eventually gets them in trouble.
And the name Spencer.
Yeah, the name Spencer is weird because they're watching. Was that The Hills?
I think it might have been.
Because it would have been popular back in whenever this was. It's got a surprisingly good pace. I was really put off by how long it was. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes. But then you look back and it's like Remember the Titans and Miracle, and I think it's generally normal for them to be this long.
Yeah, absolutely.
See, it's fine. It doesn't feel too long or anything, which was what I was afraid of going in. We sat down, and my first thought was, I really, really hope this doesn't feel too long. That's the only thing I was worried about. One weird thing about this movie, for some reason, this movie uses shaky cam sometimes.
Yeah.
I thought that was a little weird and out of place, especially for a movie like this. I don't know if it was supposed to try to bring some authenticity to it or what was happening, but that was a little weird. This guy, the director, I've seen his name on a bunch of stuff, and I can't remember a single one off the top of my head. He's one of those guys where if you look at his filmography, he's probably got like 10 movies you know, but they're really like minor movies that nobody really cares about anymore. I think he's one of those directors. I kept thinking Turtle Dove was the director, but he's not. He did, he's most famous now for like National Treasure and like While You Were Sleeping, but he did Cool Runnings, I think. Which is why I was thinking it was him, I guess. But yeah, there's plenty to like here, and I think anybody who goes to see it, planning on seeing it, will probably like it really well.
Yeah.
But there's nothing new here at all.
No.
You've seen all this stuff over and over again. It even like aesthetically, it even looks like all those other movies. It looked a lot like Invincible and Remember the Titans at times. So, but yeah, it's totally harmless. There's nothing wrong with it or anything. There is something wrong with our next movie, though.
Oh boy.
Our next movie is a week late because we had to do a lot of cramming last week. Our next movie is the Legends of Oz: Dorothy's Return is the full title. And I don't think anybody was looking forward to this movie. I don't know how many people even knew this movie was coming out. I think it was at the bottom of the box office, the bottom of the top 10 of the box office the week it came out. And there was really no marketing for it.
No.
And it was made... I feel like this movie's been on Dan Aykroyd's IMDb page for like 5 years.
That's a good possibility.
I don't know how long ago this was made. IMDb still has it at 2013. So... I don't know what kind of run it had last year, but its actual theatrical release was last week. And we got to catch it in the middle of the week. So now we can talk about it.
Yes.
Well, okay. So, obviously, the Scarecrow now has his heart, The Scarecrow now has his brain, the Tin Man now has his heart, and the Lion has his courage. And I don't know where the Wizard went, but apparently they run Oz now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, well, hold on. Let me. I meant to say this right away, and I forgot. Let me say this immediately. It is to my understanding that the Oz books and this movie, the 1939 movie, are on totally different planets.
Okay.
Apart from the characters. I have not read a single Oz book. I read one when I was like 5 and I don't remember anything at all. So, if this is supposed to be authentic to the books, I have no idea what's right and what's wrong. So, keep that in mind. I have not the slightest idea what's in the books and what isn't. Yes, the only way I really know Oz is the 1939 movie. And apparently Raimi's movie was supposed to be closer to the book, but then I heard complaints that it wasn't. So, once again, this only further confuses me as to what's really in the books and what isn't. So, I can't tell you if that is right or not.
I don't think this is a movie for diehards anyway.
Okay. I was kind of getting that vibe.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really sure. Obviously, this is a sequel because it's called Dorothy's Return.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know what it's a sequel to. If it's a sequel to the 39 movie, or one of the books, or one of those Oz movies they made in the 80s. I have no idea what this is a sequel to. It's kind of like how Burton's Alice in Wonderland was a sequel to...
something. I don't know what it was, but something.
One of the variations of When She Went to Wonderland. But anyway, the way it is now is the wizard is nowhere to be found, and the wizard's chambers in the Emerald City is basically where they hang out now. And they've got, like, the Wicked Witch's broom in a trophy case. And it's burned down just like it was at the end of the 39 movie. So maybe it's kind of somewhat a sequel to that, but I can't really tell. So, and it's really great, by the way. I think they are so unsure as to what story they're telling. They're afraid their audience is as clueless as they are, because the first shot of the movie is the big, tall, green buildings. Green buildings everywhere. So, obviously we know where we are. But apparently the movie does not think we do, because we get a blatant subtitle that says, oh, by the way, this is the Emerald City.
Laugh out loud on that one right there.
It just says Emerald City, but... Anyway, and then, of course, after we do the Scarecrow's like, oh my god, we've got to contact Dorothy because shit's going down. We see Dorothy laying in bed, and we know where Dorothy lives, don't we?
Yes.
Okay, well, this movie apparently thinks the audience doesn't, because we get a label. We don't get a city. We don't get anything. Just Kansas. Because apparently we supposedly forgot where Dorothy lived. It's only one of the most famous movie lines in the history of cinema.
Yep.
But just in case we forgot, we get the label Kansas. I'm sure that's a little nitpicky, but...
No, it's not. You're good. Continue.
Okay. So let's talk about what the problem is. There's a couple of problems.
A couple?
For starters, the Wicked Witch's brother is now pissed off. I wasn't aware she had one. I was only aware of a sister. And he's not like the Jester of the North or anything, or the Jester of the South.
Nope.
He's just a jester. Well, I don't know what he was before, but apparently she put a curse on it where he's just constantly in a jester shirt. And he's like, I literally can't take this. He's literally a lot. I literally can't take this off. And every time he tries to remove his jester outfit, there's another one underneath, and it's just a never-ending thing. He's Martin Short, by the way. And they basically do the thing with, the clever thing the original movie did, where, all the people that she met in Oz, the actors are in Kansas as other people.
Mm-hmm.
It also reminds me of Tim Curry, Richard Bryan, and Patricia Quinn at the church in Rocky Horror.
Yes.
But they only do that for one character in this movie. Martin Short also voices a guy that's there to condemn their house after another twister comes through.
With awesome James Hetfield facial hair.
And so that's the story. Their house is now condemned and they're going to have to move away from Kansas. So that's when she goes back to Oz by way of a rainbow. It's worth noting that there's a scene in this movie where Dorothy thinks she's going to be killed by a rainbow, so she screams and runs away from it. But no, it's just the Scarecrow bringing her to Oz.
Okay.
We'll just accept that.
Sure.
So she gets to Oz, and she doesn't go right to them. She comes across a bunch of various people. She meets, like, a knight, only he's made out of marshmallows, and he is Marshall Mallow, which is too close to Marshall Mathers. He should have been made out of M&Ms.
Yes, he should have.
And then there's the China Princess. And then there's an owl that's voiced by Oliver Platt, who is basically a cross between Owl from Winnie the Pooh and the Tootsie Pop Owl.
Yes.
Which is a joke they missed because they go to a not Candyland or not Sugar Rush.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people can sue this movie and get away with it.
Oh yeah, they get $5.
And all the puns are in there too. They have to go to court because they ate the chocolate. And here's the problem though, is sometimes there's some clever stuff in there. Like if you look around for the little details. But the problem is when they,
Called them out.
yeah, just like, okay, here's a particular scene. The judge was Patrick Stewart, I think. And he was a jawbreaker. And the whole thing is made out of candy. You have, like, chandeliers are made out of ice cream cones, and I can't even remember all of them, but, Marshall Mallow's shoulders are, cupcakes. He has a pretzel on his hat. The jury is a bunch of peanuts. And, of course, when the sentence is carried out, the peanuts all start talking. And I had turned to you, I was pointing to the screen, and I was going to say, hey, I think they're getting at... And before I could even finish saying it,
Yep.
The judge blatantly refers to them as the Peanut Gallery. There was another one in there, too. I forget what it was. But, I did like the little stenographer, though, because, in a bit of excess... for eating the chocolate, they're sentenced to death, which is kind of hilarious. I don't know if it was meant to be. If it was, then good on them, because that's one thing they succeeded at. And they're just, they're asking the stenographer what she's typing, and she's just this really happy little piece of candy and says, oh, I'm typing out your death certificates. Another problem this movie has, okay? You probably know where I'm going with this as soon as I tell you this piece of news. I didn't know this going in. The credits told me. I think you told me right before we went in.
Mm-hmm.
In an attempt to... Okay, what this movie... Before I go into that, what this movie does is... This movie is basically an attempt at being... This movie basically wants to make the Oz characters hip and current. Which is always a great idea. They throw in some, modern catchphrases like the cowardly lion, well, the lion now, basically punches the Tin Man or does something to the Tin Man and then says, oh yeah, that just happened. And somebody makes a too soon joke. And they give Dorothy, they give Dorothy more of a kind of slutty appearance because she's got the dress like this. Only she's wearing, Texas cowgirl boots.
Yes.
Apparently they forgot where she lived. That's why they were reminding them, because they forgot, but they thought we were too. They were reminding themselves when they blatantly labeled Kansas, Kansas.
Kansas, Texas, maybe.
So anyway, another thing I'm talking about as far as trying to make this movie hip and current, they thought, who can we get to play Dorothy? What's a really popular TV show? Because TV shows are really, seem to be more pop culture oriented than movies are now. So they decided Lea Michele was the best option. Probably the same person that decided this movie should be made. It's like, hey, let's make a sequel to Oz. I don't know to what exactly, but we're going to make a sequel to Oz. We're going to make it awesome and current and modern. And we're going to cast the girl from Glee.
Because that's popular right now.
Isn't it about to, like, end soon?
Yeah, it's actually lost a lot of its popularity as it's gone down the season.
Well, she probably recorded the voiceover for this, like, 5 years ago.
When she was actually popular, so it does make sense.
So, you probably see where this is going now. If you're gonna cast Lea Michele as Dorothy, apparently this movie has to be a musical. And not a good one, because generally what musicals do, why they're musicals to begin with, is they have songs in them that kind of progress the story along. Like, hey, this is what this character's feeling, they're gonna bust into song about it, and they're gonna have a character progression by the time the song ends. And they'll be in a different place in the plot, and the movie will just keep on going. Dorothy sings a song about basically being in Kansas. The second song in the movie comes in really late. It forgot it was a fucking musical. And they waited so long for the next song, not that we were eagerly anticipating or anything, but if they're going to label themselves as a musical, they waited so long to bring the second song in, and the second song is them fucking singing about eating the candy. The owl mainly sings it. And that's basically what they're doing. They're running around Sugar Rush and they're eating all the candy and they're singing about the candy. That's what the second song in the movie is. It is a song. It's a musical about Oz. The first song's about Kansas. The second song's about candy.
We already had a much better musical adaptation of Oz.
It's like how Speed is about being trapped on a bus and the movie starts in an elevator and ends on a subway. That's what it reminds me of. But Speed is awesome, so let's not even throw it into this.
Yes.
Because the elevator and the subway still had relevance to the story, unlike songs about Kansas and candy. So anyway, it looks like it was made on $2. Which is the first thing I noticed, and I think a lot of people noticed. Oh wait, I'm not done about complaining about the musical yet. The third song in this song, there might have been another one before, but I don't remember it. No, The Jester has a little song, but you know that theory about how villain songs and musicals are always the best ones because they're always the most, fuck everything and everything in the world kind of songs. I think the Jester song lasted for like 45 seconds. I don't even remember how it went. I remember that it happened, but that's about it. There's another song in this movie that is baffling, because here's the thing. There's another plot going on where I can't even say this with a straight face. Marshall Mallow is in an arranged marriage with the China princess, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Well, no, he had to, try out to be her husband. And then he went through the trouble of doing this, and now he's all like, but I'm in an arranged marriage, and there's no love in these. 2 hours later, the China princess shatters. Which is really funny because it's in the little China palace that, oh no, it was a little later. Okay, so they're in the courtroom in the candy place, and they're sentenced to death, right? And this is a big deal because they're all screaming like, no, not death, because death is death.
Yeah.
Well, in this China palace, after this big, thing happens, a lot of the China people shatter. So apparently death isn't that big of a deal. But then we get this shot of them, like their mouths are talking by themselves. And I guess they're immortal. You can kill candy, but you can't kill glass in this world. So, that's the logic of this movie. But anyway, so after this arranged marriage, and they're basically forced love, the China princess shatters and we think she's dead. Because she's laying, even though we saw the talking mouths by themselves earlier, we're supposed to believe that the China princess is dead. Because she just lays there forever. This scene went on for so goddamn long.
Yeah.
And as if they had not dragged it out long enough, Marshall Mallow gets a love song. And here's the thing. Marshall Mallow was so concerned about being in this arranged marriage with this woman that's made out of glass that he doesn't love. They've known each other for maybe 5 hours when he belts out this ballad in her honor when he thinks she's dead. About how, I don't even know what the words were, but it was something along the lines of, their love is forever and shit.
That better than words.
Oh, God. So, and then there's a big showdown at the end, which, I don't know if anybody knows. There was like a really, really brief time where this movie had a cult following. It was a movie called Food Fight. And it was where a bunch of the product placement mascots had a movie that went straight to video that had worse animation than Space Chimps.
Wow.
It looked like it was made on somebody's computer in 1995. There's a big battle scene at the end that reminded me of that. It also reminded me of the end of Hook. When the Lost Boys have like the chicken eggs in the paint. There's a big battle involving the candy. With the Jester. There's also a creepy subplot where the Jester turns people into puppets. That's the whole reason Glinda's in this movie. The only purpose Glinda serves, and they got a veteran voice actress like Bernadette Peters to voice her. All she does is she gets turned into a puppet by the Jester, and he keeps them in like these tanks. And he keeps the Tin Man submerged in water through the whole movie. Which makes no sense because when he comes out, he's not really. He's got some little pieces of rust, but he shouldn't be fucking moving.
No.
He should have been wasted away, I think, by then. But that's the kind of movie you're dealing with here. So, and it starts to actually get a little long, even though it's only like 80 minutes. Because everything was ending, everything was great, the Jester had gotten his comeuppance, and you were all, alright, we can get out of here now. And I had to remind you, don't forget, we're going to end up back in Kansas, and we have to, the condemning guy, the other Martin Short guy, has to get his comeuppance too, so we got to go through all that bullshit. And then there's another scene that plays during the credits, but we left, so, because...
They were rebuilding the town. I've done my homework on that one. That's it. Just rebuilding the town.
Spoiler alert, like it matters. Okay.
The voice acting?
Yeah, Marshall Mallow. Marshall Mallow is Hugh Dancy. Okay.
And let's talk about lost opportunities.
Respectively, the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Lion are Dan Aykroyd, Kelsey Grammer, and Jim Belushi. How horrible is it that in 2014 we have a movie with the names Aykroyd and Belushi in the credits? And this is the movie we have. And it's fucking Jim. Fuck Jim Belushi. And everything he stands for.
He is not fit to wear the black sunglasses.
Listen to the story Kevin Pollak tells. When they were on the set of a movie, and Kevin Pollak walked up to him to try to get his autograph for a kid. And Belushi's response supposedly was, "What are you doing here? I thought you were getting me a blowjob. What's this autograph business?"
What's Jim Belushi's autograph?
This is you have to ask Kevin Pollak. That's the story he told.
I got Kevin Pollak on speed dial, so we'll go ahead and take care of that right now.
Yeah, so,
Oliver Platt sounded like he was having fun.
Yeah, I had fun telling you random quotes from the Ice Harvest during his...
Yes!
Turkey lurkey. The fish necklace line, all of that. To reminisce about a movie like The Ice Harvest when you're watching a movie like Legends of Oz, something's wrong. They both take place in Kansas.
It's not as bad as reminiscing about Take This Waltz while watching Wreck-It Ralph. That's even worse.
Yeah. What's his line? Cusack is the best mob lawyer in all of Kansas. I am the fattest owl in all of Kansas, apparently. Okay. I think we've talked about Legends of Oz
I
enough.
think that's probably the biggest owl I've ever seen in animation ever.
Okay, our next movie's totally different now. Our next movie is a movie that went to Cannes last year, and it took forever to come out because it went through a whole bunch of changes. It's called The Immigrant, which is James Gray's new movie, which originally started off as a movie called Low Life, and then it was called Nightingale, and then it wasn't revealed until it showed up on the on the Cannes list that his name had been changed to The Immigrant. Because I remember when it showed up on the list, everybody was like, "What the fuck is that?" And then we saw it, and it was like, "Oh my god, it's Low Life!"
Yeah.
This is a movie that is set at some point in the past. I'm not sure what century we're in or what time period.
Can't
we're
really
in,
tell,
but,
actually.
I can't remember if it's established or not. It looks like the early 1900s. Kind of like the Titanic era, like the 1910s or something.
Yeah.
And we meet Marion Cotillard, who is on Ellis Island with her sister, and she is coming into America, so she thinks. Her sister is coughing really bad and looks really sickly, but obviously they're trying to keep that under wraps because they're trying to get into America without any problems. But the trouble is the sister gets spotted, and they take her off because they think she has lung disease, which turns out to be tuberculosis. And then Cotillard has to deal with security because we don't really learn what this was. But supposedly she did something on the ship that would make her a woman of low morals. So they're going to deport her right back. So she's in this deportation line, and she's, miserable because she's going to be deported, and she doesn't know where her sister is. And lo and behold, a walking phoenix appear.
Yeah.
And wearing period clothing very well.
Yeah.
And he comes over and he asks her if she needs help, and he says that he can help her. So he's very well known in this area, so he's able to pull strings when he has to. So he pulls strings and he gets Cotillard to join him and to go back to his place. And he seems like a really, really good person.
On the surface, yes.
He helps her out of her bind. He employs women, and he even lets the little girl from across the hall stay there when her mom's asleep, so she has company and can't get herself into trouble. It actually turns out that Phoenix's character, Bruno Weiss is his name, which is a good name for his character.
Yeah.
Is a pimp.
Yes.
And basically this big apartment complex is one big brothel.
Yes.
But he still really cares about them. And he's still that stern but caring character towards them. So Cotillard basically decides to stick with him so she can raise money to get her sister the help she needs and out of that infirmary that she's stuck in. And in the middle of the movie, we're introduced to a new character who is Bruno's cousin, who is Orlando the Magician, who is Jeremy Renner. Sporting his guy liner and his period suits and all that. And basically, Bruno also owns the theater, and that's basically the second job of the woman. They are prostitutes for him, and they also perform at this theater. And when Orlando comes into the path of Marion Cotillard's character, he basically wants to play Travis Bickle and try to get her out of that life and save her. And then problems ensue. There's a lot to love about this movie.
Oh, yeah.
For starters, just the appearance of it in general. First off, as far as James Gray's other movies, I haven't seen Little Odessa, but I really, really want to. I have seen The Yards, We Own the Night, and Two Lovers. Which are some totally different movies, especially compared to this. This, just in appearance alone and feel, really brings off the vibe of, like, classic Coppola when he was doing The Godfather, or Leone when he did Once Upon a Time in America. It's got, like, the exact feel of those movies. and not in like a directly lifting way, but like in a, it makes you nostalgic for those movies because it's pulled off so well.
Yeah.
And it's just the way the story is told and the kind of story it is. It's actually an original screenplay by Gray himself and a guy named Rick Manello, I think is his name. It's an original screenplay, but the structure of this story and just the stretch of it, it kind of feels like you're watching what was a classic novel put on screen. And it's, I can't really describe what I mean by that, but if you watch the movie,
I see that.
you just see it, yeah. And a lot of the, obviously you have three great actors here with Joaquin Phoenix, Marion Cotillard, and Jeremy Renner. Renner doesn't really have many standout scenes, but he's good like he always is. But this is probably some of the best stuff Cotillard and Phoenix have ever done,
Yeah.
which says something, especially for Phoenix. Because Phoenix is this, Bruno is this really unpredictable character, because he's so, soft and sensitive for a while. But she's actually warned in the bathhouse about it, because they just casually they say, he can lose his temper every now and then, but it's no big deal. And they just let that go. You just casually let it go because that's the way some people are, especially if they happen to be pimps. And then we get his wrath when there's a scene where he goes to kiss her, and she kind of refuses his advances. And he throws a holy shit fit, and we start to get a vibe that maybe he's a little more threatening than we imagined. But then the scene comes right back down because he brings in the girl. It's because she stole money from one of the other girls. And he tells the other girl what happened, and she gets the money back. And he makes the girl kiss her because he gets calm again, and he says, "You see, we forgive each other because that's what we do here." But you never know when that side of him is going to come back. And every so often it does.
Yeah.
Especially because he and Orlando have a rivalry that really does not go well when Bruno learns that Orlando wants to get her away from Bruno. So when the story kind of comes to its peak a little bit. And Cotillard has this really, it's probably her best performance, I think. Probably above Levy and Rose, too. Because this character, the interesting thing is this character is really mysterious, because we don't know exactly what happened on the ship, and we don't know, like when she stole the money, we don't know if there's some conniving side to her, or if she's just an innocent woman that's just trying to do what she can because she's desperate. Because she's clearly in a place of desperation. But as mysterious as she is, and it's never really quite made clear whether she's really that sympathetic or not. We always sympathize for her anyway. Just because of the way she plays the character and how believably we can buy she's probably more sympathetic than stealing the money or becoming a prostitute makes her. Or whatever it was that happened on the ship. Obviously, the whole low moral thing, we can probably guess what happened on the ship, but still, the movie never really reveals it, if I remember correctly. I actually saw this movie like 3 months ago. I'm behind on reviewing it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to wait until it got a limited release.
It actually came out today.
Yeah.
So.
And the movie is, I just love pretty much all the technical aspects, from the set design to the costumes to the score.
Oh yeah. And
just the way that it's shot. This movie is just really, really well crafted in every way. And the good performances, the great performances, just really, really add to what's aesthetically and technically just great in itself. I really, really love the last scene of the movie, which I won't really... I could describe the scene and it wouldn't really necessarily be spoilery, but I'll just say the last scene is really great. And that very last shot is one of my favorite last shots of this year, anyway. So yeah, I would absolutely recommend this if you ever come across it. I don't know if it's going to be everybody's thing, but if you have a feel for this movie, it's like, not necessarily, obviously it's not the same as like The Godfather Once Upon a Time in America, but it's got the feel of the more downplayed scenes in those movies. So, yeah. And if you want to see one of Joaquin Phoenix's best performances, like I said, that bar is already high. So, yeah, I would seek this out if you can find it.
Definitely.
Alright. Our next movie is a movie, I think it was released this week or last week.
I think it's this week too, but I'm not positive. It might be last week.
It's a small release movie that's also on VOD now called Don Peyote, which was co-written and co-directed by Dan Fogler, who you probably know as the best friend in a lot of movies. He is also in Balls of Fury. He's that guy. And he's a really good actor. He's a really good stage actor.
Yeah.
But normally when he's in a movie, he doesn't generally get to show off his serious side a lot because he ends up in these dumb comedies. He actually did an interview recently where he confessed to doing Good Luck Chuck for the money.
Nice.
At
least he's honest.
Yeah. But I'm not really sure what he was going for here. What I think was going on here, okay, let me tell you the plot. I guess.
Uh-oh.
It's 2012, and he plays a guy named Warren, who is basically, by day, he is a graphic novelist. By any other time of day, he is a dreamer and is obsessed with conspiracy theories. And since it takes place in 2012, you can probably imagine what his current obsession is.
Yeah.
So, basically, and he's engaged. His life is perfectly normal, apart from being a weird conspiracy theorist. And one day he's out, and there's one of those sweaty, dirty, homeless prophet guys on the street, and the guy sweats on him. And then from then on, Warren's world is turned upside down, and you never quite know when he's awake and when he's dreaming, and if the world's going to come to an end, or anything else for that matter. To give it credit, I could see this being something that probably really worked in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much on the screen at all. The movie starts with him dreaming that he's hit by a tidal wave. And this tidal wave looks like it cost $1.50 to make. I don't know if it's like part of the dream that it looks really cheap, or if it just looks really cheap. But I was really concerned about this movie when that scene happened because it's during the beginning credits. That's how far we've made it. So anyway, he decides he's going to make a documentary about people basically discussing if the world will end in 2012 or not. Which he seems to believe because he believes all that shit. Because that's what conspiracy theorists do, because they're insane. Which, by the way, already makes this movie dated.
Yeah.
Because there's not really any suspense when it's 2014, you know the world didn't end in 2012.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh shit, is that a meteor I see?
Uh-oh.
Okay, so, and we basically, the first half of the movie is following him around while he makes this documentary, and I guess it's like it's kind of like an authentic feel, I guess, because there'll be random people with like their faces blurred while he talks to them, and that's not even when you see through the camera footage or anything, it just does that. So basically what I think he was setting out here to do was to make a Gilliam-like movie. There's actually a scene that almost blatantly rips off 12 Monkeys that's set in an asylum. So it's obvious he was going for Gilliam, but Gilliam movies seem coherent when you look at a movie like this, and that says something. Because this is one of those movies where you think, okay, maybe because it's trying to do the blurring lines between reality and dreaming, maybe the incoherency is on purpose. But instead of adding anything to that story and that illusion, it just makes the movie really rambly. Like, it just kind of goes off on its bullshit over and over again, and it doesn't go anywhere. Once again, maybe it's not supposed to go anywhere, but I don't know. But anyway, the movie is a comedy. But here's the problem. I never laughed, but the problem I never laughed is, and I looked it up in multiple places, including some interviews with him himself. Apparently this is a comedy. This is in the genre of comedy. But the reason I don't think I laughed at anything is because there was never once a scene where I felt like something was supposed to be funny. It's one of those movies that's just being fucking weird for the sake of being fucking weird. And it's a lot like, I gave a criticism to John Dice at the end a lot last year, because it was one of my least favorite movies of last year. It basically felt like one of those movies where you made it with your friends, and you and your friends are the only ones that get the jokes. Which makes it totally pointless for it to be a movie that people will actually see. So, and then by the end, he's basically turned into Perry from The Fisher King. And it goes nowhere. It has 2 musical numbers in it. It has an orgy and just weird shit. There's like a Frank ripoff in there from Donnie Darko. It looks like some psychotic bunny suit or something. And I don't even think it's supposed to make sense. I think it's just weird shit for the sake of it. And maybe it's probably one of those movies where they're like, oh, maybe you'll get it if you're high when you watch it. Because that's the thing, Warren's a pothead too.
The thing, peyote, is in the title, so yeah, that makes sense.
But even so, just, there's plenty of movies that you could watch while high and they would be great. And also would be if you weren't. Because that's just how they work. This is one of those movies where even, it's basically like when you hear a friend talk about how great it is to be high all the time. That's what it feels like watching this movie. So yeah, I'm sure you would love it.
Oh god.
There's a shitload of cameos in it.
Of course there is.
Anne Hathaway is in it. Looking really, really sexy to give this movie a compliment. She's basically in half of her Catwoman getup. And she's basically some prophet of truth. Like, she breaks into his house and attacks him, and then sits in his chair and gets high and basically tells him all the secrets of the universe. Like, who killed JFK, and when the world's ending, and, you know, what the cure for cancer is, and what happened to dinosaurs, whatever the fuck. It's in montage form, though. We never actually get the answers to these questions.
Of course not.
He goes to a psychiatrist played by Wallace Shawn.
Nice.
Which really goes into nothing. Jay Baruchel is in it as a drug dealer that he interviews for the documentary. Another pointless cameo that goes nowhere. Dean Winters is in it. He buys a gun from Dean Winters. If you don't know him, Dean Winters was Dennis on 30 Rock, and he's the guy in those insurance commercials that is always, like, crashing into stuff.
Those ones, okay.
He has a name, but I forget what it is. In a very weird cameo, we have the director Abel Ferrara as a cab driver. This is the guy that directed King of New York and Bad Lieutenant, and The Funeral and a few other movies. That Last Day on Earth movie with Willem Dafoe. I don't know why. I've always thought of him as a low-rent Werner Herzog anyway. Which is really funny because he got pissed off at Werner Herzog for remaking Bad Lieutenant. In the weirdest cameo, it's not so much that it's a weird cameo because he's friends with him in real life and they did a very unsuccessful movie together. There's a cameo by Topher Grace in this movie. And this is when the movie takes a turn that I don't...
Never comes back from?
It happens in the middle, and then we come back to it at the very end, right before the credits roll. And I understand it was a point to maybe, you know, get as out of control and wacky and unpredictable as possible, but... Okay, listen to this. This whole movie I've told you about, the movie just stops and breaks the fourth wall. And Topher Grace plays Dan Fogler's agent. Not Warren's agent, Dan Fogler's agent.
What?
And we're basically watching the movie with Topher Grace. I guess. I don't know. There is one saving grace in this movie, apart from the sexiness of Anne Hathaway. There is a okay. Last year there was a really trippy movie that was actually pretty good called Scenic Route, which had Dan Fogler and Josh Duhamel in it. And in that movie, Josh Duhamel goes insane and cuts his hair into a mohawk. Josh Duhamel returns in this movie with the mohawk still, but the movies have nothing to do with each other. Just Fogler saw him like that when they were filming Scenic Route and said, "Hey, I got a part I'm doing in this movie. You should totally look like that." Josh Duhamel and his girlfriend play like nomads across the earth that eat out of garbage cans and are basically hippies and get stoned and all that. Named Adam and Eve, go figure. Duhamel's really good in this movie. He's not there for very much. He shows up like towards the end, but those characters are the saving grace of this movie. If the movie had started with him finding them, and the movie was an hour and a half of them walking the earth, like Kane and Kung Fu, together, this movie might have been something great, but it's way too little too late. So, and then they just disappear without a trace. And this movie just goes into bullshit after bullshit after bullshit and becomes totally incomprehensible, and probably not in the way it was intending. So, that's a real bummer. Because Dan Vogel seems like a stand-up dude, and he can be really funny, and he can be great at drama. He's won a Tony, but this movie should have never seen the light of day. Our final movie actually came out in February, but it comes out on DVD on Tuesday. It's called In Secret.
You're bookmarking this video with Olsen.
Yes. This movie stars Elizabeth Olsen, Oscar Isaac, Tom Felton, and Jessica Lange. That's the order they're in the credits, actually. And it is basically this ill-fated love story. It's basically like Elizabeth Olsen basically plays a vengeful Cinderella, where her dad bites it, or leaves, or something, and she's left with this kind of wicked woman that treats her like shit, that's Jessica Lange. And Jessica Lange is obsessed with her son, who is Tom Felton. Malfoy, if you don't know his name off the top of your head. Yeah. And the guy that sees her screams, "No, I didn't run to the Planet of the Apes." I brought that back too.
Yeah, there you go.
And basically, she's going to be put in an arranged marriage with Felton's character. And he's sick constantly. Like, he's always in bed coughing and he looks sickly. We don't really quite know what's wrong with him because he's been like that since he was a kid. We get this director is real inspired. I don't even remember the fucking guy's name. I probably don't have to either. But, you know you're in for directorial greatness when we jump ahead in time by them being little kids, and then the girl lays down and you have the kid coughing over here. So she hides herself under the blanket, and then, oh my god, jump in time, when she pulls the blanket back over herself, she's Elizabeth Olsen now. Great direction there. Very inspired work.
He's been coughing that long.
Yes. She stayed under her covers that long too.
Sweet.
So, they're gonna put her in this arranged marriage with Felton's character, and they're gonna live a happy life in the house together. It's basically like a marriage of royalty, only they're not royalty. And they're just gonna live in Jessica Lange's house forever and ever. And he's gonna be babied by her, and she's gonna be treated like shit by her. And she has Domino's nights. So every Thursday, I think, she gets together and plays dominoes with her people. Two of her people you'll recognize. It's Matt Lucas. Matt Lucas with hair. I didn't recognize him when I saw him, but it blew my mind. Not only hair, but sideburns.
Oh, wow.
And Shirley Henderson. So yes, Malfoy and Moody Merle are in this movie.
Sweet.
And one day, Felton decides to bring his old friend to Domino's night. This suddenly makes me really wish it was them just eating pizza.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping. I was like, there's no way Domino's existed back in the day.
Yeah, this is it's the 1860s. So, Felton brings in an old friend who he grew up with, who is Oscar Isaac. And, Olsen doesn't want to meet anybody. She's basically, in her little shell, so she's like, oh, fuck anybody that comes here. Which quite literally happens soon. But obviously she totally resents being in this arranged marriage, and she's sexually repressed. We see a scene that's hilarious. This movie thinks it's the most erotic movie ever made.
Oh boy.
This movie is all about... Okay, let me tell you this. This movie is trying so hard to be erotic. There's actually a line in this movie where Elizabeth Olsen is talking about how badly she wants Oscar Isaac. I feel weird saying this, especially on camera. I hope nobody's watching this. I hope people have turned the video off by now.
The and more usually takes people away.
Elizabeth Olsen tells Oscar Isaac, I want to wake up next to you. I want to wake up with your tongue inside me.
Well, at least she wasn't trying to be inside Llewyn Davis.
So anyway, I'm thrown off by that comment now. I'm having these horrible images get out of my head. So anyway, there's a scene at the beginning where we know she's sexually repressed because, number one, she doesn't want to do it with him. Because he's him and because he's sickly all the time, I guess. And because he's totally unappealing. We get one of those, let's try to make a baby sex scenes where it's like, and then roll over.
A nymphomaniac?
So anyway, there's a scene where she sees a guy with a scythe and he's cutting through grass. And he's really muscular and he's not wearing a shirt and he's glistening. And she turns into Christina Ricci in Black Snake Mountain. She basically lays in the grass and tries to keep herself from basically touching herself, I guess. I thought she was just going to just do it there, but she does the Christina Ricci thing and curls up into a ball and just doesn't take it. So, when she meets Oscar Isaac, all of her introvertedness and all her repression out. Just like that. And it makes you wonder what kind of person Oscar Isaac's character... Yeah, he basically becomes the villain of the movie, but... it makes you wonder what kind of person he is, because they've obviously been friends for life, and this is the first time he's meeting Olsen, and they just do it right then and there, and they're in love immediately. There is no build-up to this. There is absolutely nothing... There's nowhere where this comes from. It just happens. Their love just appears. And exists 5 hours after they meet each other.
That's lust, not love.
And they love each other so much that it basically starts to go into familiar ground. I'm thinking A Place in the Sun really came to mind, where they decide if they're gonna be together, an accident has to happen. So that they can be together.
You want me to kill your husband?
I'm low on gas and you need a jacket. So, it also reminded me a lot of them. They weren't best friends, they were father and son, but it reminds me of Damage as well. The movie with Jeremy Irons and Juliette Binoche, I think was the name. All kinds of... It's circling back around here.
Absolutely.
Christina Ricci might be in our future too.
I hope so.
So, and then it goes from there, and there is absolutely nothing new or original here, and it goes in pretty much all the directions you would expect it to go. And after a while, it starts to turn into a thriller, but there's really no suspense. And there are scenes where I imagine maybe it was handled by somebody else, like by a different director or a more skilled person. There could be some really intense scenes here, but there was no suspense to me at all. Just
The trailer wasn't very suspenseful either. It tried, but it
you
just
saw
worked.
the trailer?
Yeah.
I never saw this trailer. Of course, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's based off a play, which makes me wonder about one of my biggest complaints in this movie is the performances. The performances in this movie are really, really over the top and theatrical. Now, of course, you can say it's based on a play. That seems natural.
Yeah.
But when you have an actress like Jessica Lange has 2 Oscars, and everybody's loving her again because of American Horror Story, even though she's been doing her thing forever. The performances in this movie are embarrassing. Really, really horrible performances. And not in the over-the-top fun way. Like, you can almost see it as a guilty pleasure, as like maybe an overly campy thing. No, it's just bad. It's just bad acting. And it gets duller and duller as it goes. Another thing is, and a lot of it doesn't even, like, okay, you can't, it's hard enough to buy their love, but the thing is they do this, like, okay, obviously the title refers to The Secret, which, by the way, like, it reminds me of the scenes in Damage. It's just like every other secret affair movie. There is nothing new here whatsoever. But then they do these... Okay, there's a couple of scenes where, like, they go out with Felton's character. It's the 3 of them. And he takes her shoe off and he starts to touch her. When Felton's laying right there because he felt sick and needed to lay down. And in their normal voices, they're saying... In loud whispers, they're saying, "What are you doing? You can't do that. He's right there." And he's like, "But I just have to touch you right now."
Oh my god.
And he's right there. And then there's a scene where all of the Domino's buddies are here. And right out in the open, Lang even hears them, but she just brushes it off as, "I didn't say anything," and Lang just lets it go. Just blatantly in front of everybody. Olsen is over here doing something in the kitchen. Or no, Oscar Isaac's over here. And Olsen walks up to him, and in her regular, unhushed voice says, "I just had to be near you."
Oh my god.
And everyone in the world is oblivious to this.
Sounds like a horrible soap opera.
It shouldn't be called In Secret, it should be called In Fucking Public. Now, as far as Oscar Isaac is concerned, Oscar Isaac is a really good actor.
Yes.
He's proved that he can be really, really likable. Like in some lighter movies, and just if you see him in interviews or on talk shows, just his real life personality, he's got a real likability to him. And he can play, the douche really well. Because he douched it up in Drive, and he really, really douched it up in Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yes.
And played, that pretentious asshole part well. There are so many things Oscar Isaac can do well, and he can do a villain, because he was that really over the top villain in Sucker Punch. No matter what you think about that movie, I really think Oscar Isaac really did that over the top comic booky villain thing well. But here, where he's also basically a villain, it's more of an underplayed, more underplayed than he was in Sucker Punch, I mean. He's like this sinister object of desire, and I just really wasn't buying his casting. It's nothing he was doing wrong, I just don't think he was the right person for the part. So, yeah. Yeah, like I said, it turns into a thriller after a while instead of more of a secret affair movie. It takes a drastic turn in the middle that you can probably see coming from a mile away if you've seen any movie ever like this. Sunrise comes to mind too. A Song of Two Humans, not the that other one. But no, I just wasn't feeling this movie at all. So yeah, I think that means we're done.
Well, as always, we do our recap here, and Godzilla.
Yes, I would seek Godzilla out. But you don't have to seek it out because it's everywhere.
It'll be everywhere, especially now.
It's about as easy to find as Godzilla the being.
$1 Million Arm.
Sure, it's not bad at all. It's just you've already basically seen it.
I like the inspirational Disney movies, not just because of my personal bias.
Yeah.
I just think they're good movies.
Yeah, none of them are bad. So, I think Remember the Titans is a little overrated, but that appears to be just me.
Yeah. Legends of Oz.
Legends of Oz. Okay, I imagine Legends of Oz would have been a lot worse than it actually was.
Yeah, I can see that.
But even so, it is what it is.
The Immigrant.
Yes, it's one of the best movies of the year.
Easily, I totally agree with you on that one. Don Peyote.
No, it's one of the worst movies of the year.
And In Secret.
No.
Well, that would be the end of another week of AJ's movie reviews. And next week, finally, X-Men Days of Future Past. Blended and more.
There's that found footage horror movie, Sex Tape. It's supposed to say sex tape. I don't know if you're supposed to pronounce it sex tape or actually just say sex tape, but because we have another comedy, we have a comedy coming out later in the year called Sex Tape. That's going to be confusing, but
yeah.
It's it looks like it's in the style of VHS and Paranormal Activity and all those. It's like a combination.
Don't compare PA and VHS
The
ever.
Lunchbox as well.
And the Lunchbox will be talked about as
and
well.
And probably a couple more.
Yes. So, AJ, any parting words?
That's it.